Greetings. Greetings, everyone. Let me say peace, love, light to you all, and may all be well with you all. Give thanks to the Most High for life, good friends, family, and all that we hold dear and aspire to be or achieve and is achieving. Greetings. Greetings, all. Welcome. Welcome to you all, to everyone that will be tuning in to this broadcast today. Whew. A while back, I was watching a clip of the New York mayor, Eric Adams, drinking New York City's tap water to show folks that the water is safe and clean. I'm not going to tell anyone what to think or what not to think. Only thing I'm going to say is we live in a time where your ignorance and your easy going to let down your guard and believe bureaucrats, these politicians, is going to cost you. Just taking the word of someone because they're in a particular field of work or wear a suit and tie and has a particular title, taking the word of anyone without you doing your due diligence to go and follow up and actually research what these people are saying or what has been going on or who are the parties involved that ran this test to say the water is clean. Who are they? Who do they work for? Who are they associated with? What are their records, their backgrounds? What corporations have funded them in the past or in the present? Who funded this mayor's campaign? What businesses? What corporations? These things matter. These things are important, very important. You understand? Now, when he was drinking this water, and the first thing I did was just blurt out laughing. Got to understand also about water. Water purges, purifies all that it touches. But when it's constantly contaminated, that process of the natural existence of water, that process of what it's supposed to do, that natural process, then slows down or two is contaminated, meaning that it no longer can clean and purify once it's continuously being contaminated. Now, there's a saying, first time is an accident, second time is coincidence, third time it's a pattern. When I had my bigger channel before it was sabotaged and then taken down. I did a 3 hour stream about the Indian Point Power Plant, but I'm going to sum it up in this audio here. The Indian Point Power Plant is not the only power plant that has been leaking for decades in North America. Power plant out there in Miami, I think it's Tampa, has been leaking. There's 3 power plants in Florida that's been leaking. Power plant in Detroit that's been leaking. Chicago, that's been leaking. St. Louis, that's been leaking. Over 20 or 27 of the major power plants in Northern America has been leaking. Not once, not twice, not 3 times. You add that into when the government of Flint purposely flooded sewage water into Flint, Michigan to poison the people. And still nothing has come from that yet. Water contaminated with corroded metals, shit, piss. Can't trust these politicians. They work for the big money that backs them. Your money don't back them. That Federal Reserve money backs them. And when you understand what the Federal Reserve is, that's when you also understand. I'm just throwing this little tidbit. Federal Reserve, when people are saying it has no gold, it has no gold. None. All of that gold that was once there, or if it was there, is in what is now the King's Vault overseas. What the Federal Reserve has is an extensive amount of corporations that identify as cities, states, and municipalities, and then subcorporations like Microsoft, Apple, Comcast, Verizon, all these companies, Home Depot, Lowe's, Tesla, Amazon. You understand? All these major companies that fall underneath one of the other major holding companies, which is called the Vanguard Group. These companies, the Vanguard Group, there's a other one that's like I said, it's 3 major holding companies that has thousands of the world's major corporations underneath them. These 3 companies are what is you now called the Federal Reserve. Understand this. And everything else is subsidiaries of the Federal Reserve. Understand this. These companies use the Federal Reserve to funnel their fiat dollar, the dead note that has no value. And they use the Federal Reserve to run what is called the IRS, which the IRS has many companies and businesses contracted with it, such as the policy department, or what you call the police department. And their job is to tax in the form of fines, tickets. And then that goes into the city or the state IRS. And then from the city or the state IRS, that goes to the federal IRS. And from the federal IRS, that goes into the Federal Reserve Bank, which these major corporations invest hundreds of millions of dollars in these politicians every time they go to run for an election, which falls into what is called the electoral college votes, which is why you see Obama clearly had lost the election, but he won the electoral college votes. Why Bush clearly had lost the election, but he won the electoral college votes. You understand? You're not the electoral college vote. Those corporations, the faces behind those corporations are the freeholders, not renters and mortgage payers. Look up what a freeholder is. You'll be surprised. Read also the New York's New York's Constitution. Go back down to 1978, I believe, 1973, 1978, and also see what it says about the Indian in the New York Constitution, which you, whom are identified as the Negro, colored, black, African American, Afro Caribbean, Afro Latino, Afro Latina, are the American Indian. You've always been here. You are the first peoples of the entire Americas, the indigenous people of the Americas. Everyone else are just folks that came here and latched onto your coattail and don't want to let go. Understand this. You'll understand when you see that and you read that in their constitution, you understand why that is important. That you go back to your rightful identity and what that means for you, this land, and your freedom outside of their courts, their jurisdiction, outside of their corporate policies. Okay? These politicians or these politicians, these poli, these fake pole lights, these fake polar lights, these fake northern lights, these fake eastern stars have been lying to you for years, tricking you. Because if you go back into your rightful identity, these politicians have no jurisdiction or say so over you or your natural. He buried his ex-wife on one of his businesses. I think it's one of his golf course resorts. Do you know why he did that? They could never, no government could ever touch that land for life. I want you to understand this. For life. Nor could they even hit him for land taxes. You understand? Because it's now a better. Understand this. We used to bury a lot of our family members on these lands here that we owned. And this is why when they chase up African burial ground in Manhattan, this is why they named it the African burial ground. Because if it was to be named the Indian burial ground, it would then be, then why is all this Wall Street stuff on lands that it's not supposed to be on? They desecrated the graves and then turned it into a museum and changed your identity. Your captors, your slave masters, your colonizers, and your invaders, it is not in their best interest to tell you your identity of who you are. So when they're making tons of movies and they putting these boule Negroes and these fake hotep niggas in front of the cameras and giving them these hundreds of thousands of views to teach you that you're African, you have to question all of that. Okay? Now let's get back to the Indian Point power plant. Because there's no way in hell, boy. No way in hell. Decades of leaking. Decades. And if you pull up a map of all the other power plants and you connect them together to the main source of water supply that they were all leaking in, the entire, damn near the entire Northern America's drinking water is fully contaminated with radioactive fluids, with radiation. This is where you also get the silent killer, which is called hard water. So he could drink that water 10 million times. You, the folks in New York City, know if you put that water in a pot and you boil that pot till that water fizzles out, and you leave that pot for a day or two and come back and you wipe your fingers around that pot, you see a ton of white powder like it's cocaine. That's in New York's water. That is in Jersey's water. That is in Connecticut's water. You know why? Because the Indian Point power plant covered the tri state area. 20, 25 years ago, that white powder was not in your drinking water. And when you see your pipes in your kitchen looking corroded with frost, with that white frost on the tips at the nozzle in your shower, caked up, that's the result of hard water. Brain damage, birth defects, cancer, lung and heart disease because you're swallowing all of that. It's caking your lungs, it's caking your trachea, it's caking your airways. Respiratory disease. You know, so when they hit you with the fake demic, no one questioned about the hard water that, if you had asthma already, or if you're a person that's prone to sickness and you're drinking this water, you're bathing in it. You see that your skin is breaking out. You're like, damn, I never had these marks on my face, these bumps. It's that hard water. It's clogging the pores in your skin, so your pores aren't having any room to breathe. Sometimes, you understand, gives you allergies, all these things. It's called hard water. Now let's get into this little article here. And this is from Riverkeeper, and they're also a suspect organization, but we'll read this. We'll read a part of this article. Radiological leaks at Indian Point. The Indian Point nuclear power plant has a long history of accidental radioactive leaks and spills. Spent fuel pools at the plant housing toxic nuclear waste have been leaking since the 1990s. Corroded buried pipes. Now, what corroded those pipes? Remember what I said about hard water? Corroded buried pipes have sprung radioactive leaks. Tanks have spilled hundreds of gallons of radioactively contaminated water, and malfunctioning valves and pumps have leaked radionuclide laden water. As Indian Point continues to age and degrade, more inadvertent radioactive leaks are inevitable. Now they're going to make it sound like the plant has been aging, so this is why it's breaking down. But I believe it was in the 2000s where another company had purchased one side of the plant. So how could it be aging to the point where it's consistently leaking, or just say straight outright just dumping into the drinking water supply if you had a company that purchased half of the plant or a wing of the plant in 2000s? They didn't see that some parts needed to be fixed, repaired, replaced. It needed a major upgrade. There's something off about this Indian Point story, and people let them close it out without asking or doing any real research. These people literally investigated themselves and came back and gave you the bare minimum of information. But out of it, you could put two and two together and see that there's a major cover up here. No one went to prison. No one went to prison. No one lost their jobs. Nobody. Okay? Now, decades of accidental radiological releases at Indian Point plant have resulted in two extensive plumes of contamination in the groundwater beneath the plant, which leach to the Hudson. I guess they mean which leads to the Hudson River. Given Entergy's plant, Entergy is the name of the company. And yes, it is Entergy. Given Entergy's plan to let the contamination sit and on to let the contamination sit and attenuate instead of extracting it. The radioactive plumes will continue to pollute critical nearby ecosystems of the river for decades, if not centuries. 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 You understand? And on this, they got the maps of the plant and stuff. After discovering leaks from spent fuel pools in 2005, but it's been leaking from the 1990s. So they discovered leaks now in 2005. The owner of Indian Point Energy conducted an investigation and uncovered these large plumes. Energy's initial investigation into groundwater contamination at Indian Point result in a hydrogeologic report in 2007. And since that time, Entergy has been generating quarterly groundwater monitoring reports relating to the status of radioactivity in the groundwater. Now, the map that they showed, it says 2007 tritium, the plume map. Now we're going to look up what tritium is, okay? Because this is important. Now, let's go look up what tritium is. What is tritium? Right? Now, mind you, it wasn't just leaking tritium, because in order for them to run the Indian Point power plant, they was using also uranium, right? That's what they was also using as a power source, which is asinine to me because historically power plants weren't ran on nuclear, or what they're called nuclear power. You understand? So for these people to go nuclear, they were then purposely contaminating and polluting the water supply. But hey, tritium. Tritium. Tritium, or hydrogen 3, is a rare and radioactive isotope of hydrogen. The nucleus of tritium contains one proton and two neutrons, whereas the nucleus of the common isotope hydrogen 1 contains just one proton, and that of hydrogen 2 contains one proton and one neutron. Uh, let's go into what the effects of tritium are. Is tritium harmful to humans? Now, here's where here's where why I said you have to be careful with these folks, because they will tell you these things aren't harmful to you and you'll fall for it, right? But if it's tritium that's leaking and tritium is not harmful, then why shut down the plant? They shut it down in 2021. They claim 14 years ahead of when it was supposed to be shut down. So it was shut down last year, supposedly, right? But it was supposed to have been shut down, I think, by 2034, right? 2034, 2038, 39, about that time. So if this thing is supposed to be harmless, because this is what these articles are going to be saying, tritium does not have chemically toxic effects, and its potential to be hazardous to human health is solely because it emits ionizing radiation. Uh, the beta particle, the beta particle, the radiation exposure may very slightly increase the probability that a person will develop cancer during his or her lifetime. You said it say slightly. There's no slight about it. There's no slight about it. This is radiation that you're swallowing, that you're drinking. It's been leaking for decades. There's no way in hell, to me, in my opinion, that something like that, not just leaking anywhere, was leaking in the Hudson River. The Hudson River, which supplies damn near all of New York with its drinking water. You understand? Leaking in the Hudson River for decades. Decades. They're gonna try to tell you now it was just leaking in the soil in the ground, through these barrels, these drums. No, if a pipe was burst and all of that, that means it was running outside of that plant, going into that river. Now you got to start questioning a lot of things within the past 20 plus years of the leaking of that plant, with the mental effects that people have been having, mental breakdowns, all these different psychological effects. You understand? Could it have possibly also gone back to that, added in with the constant chemtrails that they were sprayed over us? Wake up, people. This is not a game. You understand? And for this Negro to go in front of the cameras and talk about, ooh, ooh, water's clean. Go ahead. Come on, my niggas. Come on now. Hurry on over and get you a glass. What? This is the same dude that brought back the gang unit task force to full force. Y'all not getting what's happening in front of y'all. You understand? Also, I'll save what I was about to say for the other channel. I'll do a upload on other channel within the week, and I thank Ravenator for sending me the info on a Supreme Court ruling involving the police union and the jab, the mandatory jab. That ruling was very interesting, and what everybody who was forced to do that mandatory job needed. Because we told y'all from day one, law is superior to policies. Law, the Constitution, is more superior to policies. See, I'm giving y'all clues to what I'm about to drop and talk about, so y'all could go research it before I even drop it. Law, law, the Constitution is more superior to any business, corporation, and their policies. And the right to full disclosure, which was not given. Even to this very day, there's when you see the commercials, they don't talk about any side effects. Full disclosure. But when you see them herpes and the HIV commercials, they give you all the side effects. Well, this may cause kidney disease and lung damage and so on and so, but fix Toby and so on. So it's you can still take it because it will still solve one problem but cause 10 million others. These are the corporate people and politicians that you're listening to. And I don't want to laugh, but we live in an era, in a time where this generation of children coming up are just lost and very selfish. You understand? They're taught to only look out for solely 100% just themselves. And then they're taught that the world only revolves around a computer, a tablet, an iPhone, the internet. There's nothing else outside of that. And a lot of what they're seeing on the internet is not real. To find what is real, you have to actually really go dig deep, groundwork, research, and they're not doing that. A 2 to 3 second Google pop up does not equivalent research. You understand? I could talk about the Indian Point Power Plant because this was something in the past that I researched for at least 8 months before I even dropped any info. That's why my live stream that I did on the other channel before it was taken down was about 3 hours long, packed with information. In a stand, man. Our children today are out of touch with reality. So when they start getting hit with information like this, a lot of them become uh, um, stressed, mentally stressed, spiritually stressed, and also suicidal because they're not raised or built strong anymore. Just saying. And they succumb quicker to temptations. You understand? But but yeah, man, Indian Point Power Plant. Gotta be careful. Let me look up hard water. What hard water is, so that because hard water, just like tritium, tritium is something that is. I want y'all to pay attention. This tritium is odorless. It has no smell, and tritium looks exactly like the drinking water. Exactly like it. It is that clear. So you wouldn't be able to tell if you're swimming in it or not. You understand? Now, when you boil that water, then you'll see the powdered form of what it is that's been contaminating the drinking water supply for years. That white powder that they call hard water. Okay. Hard water. Even when you type in hard water, it just shows all the corroded pipes, rust filled white, brown. Ooh, just nasty. Nasty. What do hard water do to your body? Among them, a good percentage consumes hard water, which is considered to be a significant etiological factor around the globe, causing many diseases as cardiovascular problems, diabetes, reproductive failure, neural diseases, and renal dysfunction. Now, yes, the cities that you're in, I'm gonna show y'all something. The cities that you're in, the states that you're in, and I'm gonna put this article about hard water in the description box and the comments and the top of the comments section for you guys. I'm going to put the link in there. Right now, let's read this article. This is from NCBI, and I think this site is also funded by the CDC and the government. So this is a government site. Now, mind you, all the videos that they took down from me when I spoke on COVID, I was reading from this site also, which is the NIH, the same NIH that they were talking about with Wuhan and COVID, which is funded by the CDC. Told y'all everything's connected. But anyway, uh, potential health impacts of hard water. And this is from Pallav Sengupta. All right, that's the person who wrote this. This is their thesis. Abstract. In the past 5 decades or so, evidence have been accumulating about an environmental factor which appears to be influencing mortality, in particular cardiovascular mortality, and this is the hardness of the drinking water. In addition, several epidemiological investigations have demonstrated the relation between risk for cardiovascular disease, growth, retardation, reproductive failure, and other health problems, and hardness of drinking water or its content of magnesium and calcium. In addition, the acidity of the water influences the reabsorption of calcium and magnesium in the renal tubule. That's tubule. It's Tubule. Not only calcium and magnesium, but other constituents also affects different health aspects. Thus, the present review attempts to explore the health effects of hard water and its constituents. Keywords: Alzheimer's disease, calcium, cancer, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, hard water, magnesium, reproductive health. You can't make this stuff up, y'all. You understand? Remember in the early 1990s, go back to the 1980s, buying bottled water was not that major thing. It wasn't that big of a thing. The only thing you had worried about in drinking water at one time was what I think what the chlorine, right? Not no hard water. Now in the past 20 plus years, bottled water has been the main source of hydration in a home. You understand? In the home. Everything now is bottled water, bottled water, bottled water. Water filters, water filters, water filters for your pipe, filters for your refrigerator, filters for this, filters for that, filter, filter, filter. And these filters aren't cheap. They're expensive. And if you want a good one for the entire house, it's going to run you a couple $1,000. Or if it goes on sale, probably around $800. And then the cartridges, when those are filled and need to be replaced, those are probably 100 plus or a couple $100 for the cartridges alone. They contaminate you for the sake of business. You understand? They target you for the sake of business. Everything is business. They infect you with diseases because it's business, because the public hospitals, the private hospitals are funded by them. It's business. Wake up, y'all. Now, if you are a smart person or you're an organization out there, a group of people who are well connected, but also in the fields of law and financially, then you can launch an investigation in your city, your state, drinking water, because it's to me, it's more so in to the major cities than up in the mountainous areas. You'll find hard water. And who are the people that mostly live in the major cities and urban areas? Who are they? Come on now. First time an accident, second time's coincidence, third time is definitely not the charm, it's a pattern. Wake up.